What's up, everybody? Welcome to the On the Clock podcast, our second episode. We already got a guest, Quinn Meinerz, up here in the right-hand corner, other hand. And we're happy to have him on. I'm your host, the best gift giver, the west side of the Mississippi. Welcome to On the Clock. Quinn, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I had a great workout this morning, and kind of looking forward to relaxing a little bit. The next couple days, and then kind of hit this process, running because the next couple months here are very important. So,
how you doing, Roy?
I'm doing well, my friends. I'm just glad to be here, talking with one of my favorite small school guys in this draft. We were chatting it up here a little bit, getting ready for Christmas, and can't wait for it here. So this is my first Christmas present I get done wrapped today.
Just imagine Quinn Meinerz all 320 of them wrapped under your tree.
yeah, probably not moving too well.
Alrighty. So Roy, I'll go ahead and let you take the lead. We're going to be interviewing Quinn here. It's a pleasure to have him on, like I said. Go ahead, Roy.
All right, Quinn. So I just wanted to make sure here your name is Quinn Meinerz. Is that how you pronounce it? Because sometimes in the draft class and the people in the media, we butcher names. So I just wanted to make sure and get that out there, at the beginning of the whole thing here. Is it Quinn Meinerz, or how do you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's perfect. I've heard a lot of weird pronunciations throughout middle school, high school, and whatever. But yeah, it's Meinerz, and yeah, it's not too bad of a last name once you get it once.
Oh yeah.
Alrighty, so that was my first one. The other ones here, I'm going to throw a couple curveballs at you. We did get them the questions beforehand because we wanted to be prepared. But this is draft season, so I know you've been training. Do you have any semi-official measurements for everybody? I know kind of Zach talked about it here, but do you have for all of us draft nerds out there so we can go ahead and write it in pen? Height, weight, maybe even arm length, hand size if you have it?
Yeah, I did get measured one time last spring, and so I'll just tell you the numbers. 3. I'm weighing right now. Between like 320, 325. Hand size, I don't really know. I think it's like 9 3/4 or 10. I don't know. So it's somewhere around there. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't measure.
I figured I'd drop that on you here. Just want to make sure. Make sure we were pretty close in our evaluation. We had you at 6'3", 320-ish or around there. So we all know how weight fluctuates. It's Christmas time. You eat a lot of Christmas cookies. So I don't know about you, but we'll see. Also, last one just for the bio, kind of here for everyone in their draft profile. When's your birthday, including year?
It's November 15th, 1998. So yeah.
All right, cool.
Yep.
So that's great. We love having, verified stuff here from people, especially right from the guy right off the hoof here. So, but I want to get into one of the interesting stories I heard about you, and that's your off-season routine. I know you're a kid from a young man from Wisconsin. One of our own, Cody Manning, was from Wisconsin as well. One of our scouts here on staff, and I heard an interesting story about your routine for the off-season, the way you train and what you have going on there. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the last not this summer, but the past two summers, I would be going up to Canada, where my great uncle has an island fishing camp, and so as soon as finals get done in May, I go up there and I don't come back until fall camp starts. So the first year I was meeting with football coaches, our strength and conditioning staff, and really trying to maximize my activity up there because you really want to have, you can't come into a season not have worked out for 3-4 months or whatever. It is hard work. It is hard work up there, but it's just to be able to still get the weights in, to be able to lift things. So I was able to bring a weight set with me the most recent time I was up there, I brought a bench, a barbell, and 360 pounds with me, and kind of set up a little spot in the middle of the woods, and just was able to, make do with what I had and just be creative. Especially because I am a strength and conditioning major, it was cool to, experience that where I had to kind of be creative and think on the spot, and it was just it was really fun. Working outside and in the woods is actually a lot more fun than you would think.
Hey, I am definitely with you. My day job here, I work at a state park in Pennsylvania, so I'm going to extend you the opportunity here. I work on a hiking trail, 70 miles of it. I cut trees, I weed eat. If you're ever in the off season, need a place to come out for a day or two, come on out here to Somerset, PA. I'd love to have you. We'll put you up in one of the cabins around here. We'll do some work like that. It's good training work. I'm a guy at similar size, about 6'3", 300. So us offensive lineman style people got to stick together. I know how well that keeps you in shape. So interesting.
Oh yeah,
stuff there.
I mean tons of weed eating, tons of cutting trees down, or you just clearing up brush for the portages, and yeah, so it's lots of outdoors.
I know how well you could run a marathon after that with a lot of people who don't know how to do it. So
yeah.
All right, so we know about your decorated football career. Did you play any other sports in high school or even in college while you were there at Wisconsin-Whitewater?
In high school, I was a 3-sport athlete. I did football, wrestling, and track, and all 3 of those sports. I mean, especially football is directly translatable, but the other sports of wrestling and track were great supplements to becoming a better football player. In the process of going through the recruiting stuff with college. At Whitewater, I would have liked to have done wrestling, but I think it kind of worn out my career in high school. And track, you can't really mix too many sports, because if you do track, like in college, then you miss football, spring ball.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, in college at Whitewater, it was just football.
Gotcha.
Awesome. So I have a question actually that kind of relates to your wrestling career. How has wrestling really influenced how you play offensive guard?
Wrestling is huge, and anytime anybody asks me about wrestling, I'll always, if you're a football player, you should also be a wrestler, especially if you're, someone that's in the trenches, because it's showing you how to, hand fight, which is a huge piece of, offensive line or defensive line play, understanding, leverage and where you can get advantages, and, manipulating another player or wrestler. And yeah, I mean, I can about how wrestling is in high school.
Oh yeah, I wrestled for a year in high school. Not go very well. I was terrible, but I learned a lot about leverage and hand fighting. I played defensive back in high school and a little bit in college as well, and I learned a lot about leverage and hand fighting from that. So it's a great tool, and I was just curious how it affected you.
Nice. Do you have any more, Zach? You want me to keep rolling through?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So I got a fun one for you, Quinn. Do you have any nicknames? I know offensive linemen. We got the big uglies up front. Has anybody ever christened you with a nickname in your football playing career?
Yeah, it's not a great nickname, but it's I've always been kind of referred to as the gut, is kind of the an interesting thing about that is that I developed that nickname in high school and in college, but through independent reasons, like not like a carryover.
Okay.
It's super interesting, and I think a big part of it, at least with if you look at some of the pictures or the film, my jersey does not fit me, and it's a 2XL, and my gut is hanging out.
Hey, that's big guys. Big hefty guys are sexy too. You know what I mean? That's why you got to stay with it. Be proud of that. Live with it. Love that, buddy.
I'll take the nickname. It's
the gut. I love it. So if you wouldn't have been a football player, I know we kind of touched upon this already. What other profession would you have been trying to strive out and get into here after your time at Wisconsin-Whitewater?
My plan, the entire time of, picking what school I wanted to go to, I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach. So that's the path I've been going down at Wisconsin-Whitewater, between, studying, biomechanics, just how the body works, understanding proper, workout programs, and so that was what I was planning on doing. And it was, probably between a high school / college level strength and conditioning, because just based off of the knowledge that I've been able to bring up, I think it's good to help, especially in high school, because of, helping build a great foundation going into college for some of those athletes. So.
Okay, that's a great answer. We do have a question here from one of our listeners here. It is from Rob, our graphics guy. We were kind of talking to you a little bit about him here before we went on. And his question was, if you could get 2 hours to pick anyone's brain for advice, who would it be and why?
Wow, what a question. 2 hours to pick their brain. This one's got me.
If you want to come back to that, we can here. That way, we'll get back to the questions we have. But if you want to have it tucked away here a little bit,
because if that's a very broad
deep
question.
One. That's Rob, man. He throws out the deep questions here. But who was the best player you ever went up against at your time in college?
It would definitely have to be Joey Longoria from University of Maryland, Baylor. We were able to play against each other 2 times, my sophomore and my junior year, in the playoffs, and down in Texas. It would have been nice for them to come up to the frozen tundra in December, but yeah, definitely him. I think our matchup was just, we were constantly just going very very hard in the chess match, and I know I had fun competing against him. So
yeah, you always want to go against the best, and that I've watched a little bit of those tapes, man. You guys had some battles in those trenches, and it was some fun games to watch between the two of you guys down there. Who is a player you pattern your game after? Is there a couple guys you watch tape of, or you pick up a few things throughout your time in the game film study here?
I watch a lot of Quentin Nelson. For obvious reasons, he's just a great card to watch. A thing that I always mention is how he's able to play, with, strength and, just being fast and powerful. But I think he's also very good at the finesse part of being an offensive lineman, of, making a linebacker or a lineman guess how he's going to approach you every single play, and keeping that, that guessing game, per se, open. It allows for him to just keep winning blocks, easier. So, and I think a more recent thing, I've been watching a lot of centers too, because I've been trying to, learn center as of this year. So I did a lot of snapping in the backyard, and just getting thousands and thousands, getting as many reps as I can of, to be able to say I can play the interior 3 and swing. Ryan Jensen. Oh my gosh, that guy.
Ryan Jensen.
He's nasty. He's mean. He's just a great player. And so yeah, I would say those two for sure. And then just watching centers to see how they hold the ball and how they do things. I kind of try to analyze everything of like, why is his feet this way? How is he moving to do this type of job? And just picking up on little things, because every guy kind of has their own stance, has their own approach to certain things, especially in the game.
Especially because everybody's a different body type. You have athletic centers, you have guys that have that more natural background as a guard. It's interesting to see, and that's great information to know. You're playing guard, but you're a smart fella. You know that's the easiest way to get on the roster, is having that versatility, being that 6th or 7th offensive lineman to be the backup at center and guard. That's great information right there, Quinn. So you were part of this college season. We all know with the pandemic how crazy it's been, where you get the option, I believe, down even at Division III, where you're able to stay for the additional year. Did you ever consider staying, or did you seek out some information from the advisory board before you declared? If you did talk to the advisory board, did they give you a range, like maybe where you were going to go? Or did you have any thoughts on any of those questions?
I had an open door, for the longest time of, I was listening to what anybody had to say, any opinions, anything, I had a notebook where I would just kind of write everything down and just try to, keep as many options open as possible until I have to start closing doors, come now this time where we're at now. So it was definitely there was kind of three options that kind of arose from the whole situation. It was, the first one was, come back and play another year at Whitewater. The second option is maybe transfer up to, a Division I school and, try to put my stamp on there. Or three, stay, take the cards that were dealt with this year and then just go into go through the draft process. And I did not talk to the advisory board, but through information I was able to get from, a lot of NFL agents, a lot of agents and scouts, and just hearing what some of those people have to say, having conversations at the end of the day with my family, especially my dad. He's been kind of a person that I always, if I come up with an idea, I'll bounce it off of him, and he'll kind of give me a bunch of different perspectives of just what's the best option. And, moving forward, I had a high enough grade, told to, come out this year at a draftable grade with junior film. And I took some of the criticisms of that I heard from scouts of, your body type, be a swing player, and take those challenges, set new goals. And now we're, officially declared. When I made that, the social media post, I don't enjoy doing the social media stuff, but it's nice to have, the clarity of the word coming from me to help everybody else. So that's kind of how I went through the process. And now we're in December and getting ready to kind of keep moving forward here.
That's great. That's great. I love seeing the insight of going through somebody's mindset, going through that, because this is a life-changing decision, Quinn. You know as well as I do, it's only a small percent of players that get there at the NFL, and I just want to throw this out there too. I don't want to throw any criticism because I try to uplift people, but don't look past an opportunity at the XFL too if you get a chance. If something would fall through at the NFL where you can't get on the practice squad. You see a lot of the guys from the XFL. We covered it. Me and Zach both were pretty intimate in the second go around per se in 2020 here and covering it. So don't close that door. If somebody calls you from the XFL, you can maybe be one of the stars there and get right back into the game, maybe in a better situation. So just a little bit of food for thought there. I did want to ask you, did you select an agent yet, or you just going like yourself there? You had your intimate conversations with scouts and everything. Did you sign with an agent yet, or no?
Yes, I have signed with an agent actually just a couple weeks ago officially. His name is Ron Slavin from Sports Stars.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and he actually has two Whitewater guys with him right now. With Kumaro on the Bills right now. He used to be on the Packers. And one of my teammates actually 2 years ago at Whitewater, Nate Truan.
Okay.
So he's in conversations. He gave me a lot of great information. So
nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
So when talking about that, you said you got a little criticism from scouts and stuff. And I was really curious, what do you think is going to be your biggest adjustment moving forward to the NFL from D3 football?
The smaller margin of error, especially with technique. As I've been going through trying to fix things with my technique, I think that's the expected in Division III with being a big, strong, powerful person that is all in on the football experience the whole time. So that's I'm perfecting, the craft, and, it'll never be perfect. There's always something to work on. That's just you're not done until until it's done. So that's the, making the strikes, where I'm going to strike with my hands, more independent hands, moving my feet quicker and, the basics. Cause at the end of the day, you got to be, very sound technique with the basics.
Where are you planning on training pre-draft here? I know we were kind of talking about. Do you want to throw out any place there? You were kind of throwing some big names about where you're doing your pre-draft training.
Yeah, I started in May. I've been just doing a lot of working out since May at this gym. It's called Next Level in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And for some people that might not know this place, Some of the big names that have trained there or whatever are all of the Watt brothers. You walk into the facility and you see their jerseys and stuff. So that's been a great place to train at. From one of the a great coach of Brad Arnett. He's given me a wealth of information and just has really helped transform my body and get to the goals that I need to be. Come pre-draft, I'll actually be training down at Exos in Texas.
Okay.
And that's what I'll be doing that process. But I definitely want to make sure that Brad at Next Level got because he's the one that kind of helped get me here like to now, and I want to make sure that doesn't get forgotten, because I know I won't, because it's been a huge part of my life and been a life-changing experience to be working out there.
Absolutely. It takes a community to get a guy drafted. Like you said, the small percent, those guys, they put in the work with you there to build you up throughout your years in college and through the off season. So I'm sure you have a lot of people on your side there, Quinn. If we had to ask you, what was your greatest accomplishment up to this point right now, Quinn? What would it be?
I was thinking about this question, and I kind of have a split between a couple of things. And I'm just going to go with two biggest and change your question.
Okay.
The first one was, I set out on a mission when I first decided to go to Whitewaters. I want to be an All-American. So when I finally, saw that, I finally was an All-American, it was just, I don't know, I even know how to describe it. It was just overwhelming joy to, have the people that, are in charge of those committees, like the way I play the game and all that kind of stuff. But I would say equal to that was being named the team MVP this last season. It was, an offensive lineman being named the MVP from a team is, borderline, never.
Yeah.
So, and it was all voted by all the players on the team. So, to have all of my teammates, believe in me as the the MVP. It was a surreal moment at the banquet to hear, team MVP, Quinn Meinerz. I was like, wow, these guys really do, mean it, and the team atmosphere at Whitewater is just it's phenomenal.
I think that not only speaks to your character on the field, but off of it too. You put in that work on the off days and in the film room. I think that's what it really speaks to, and that's what has me even more excited after watching your tape. Getting to know you here just in the conversation, I think sky's the limit for you, brother, and I can't wait to see what's coming up here. Well, turn this question around. We talked about your biggest accomplishment. What's your biggest disappointment to this point?
I would say the biggest disappointment was definitely has to be the national championship game. That was, not a great showing, from, myself, and, I think everybody. I think there's enough. You can just look at the score and just understand that was just not how for one, Whitewater plays football, and just how things are done around Whitewater. And I was so motivated, and the team was so motivated to get back to this next season. Yeah. And you could just feel in the room, nobody's talking about it. You could just feel it in the room that there was another special season brewing up in the Whitewater football team. So that was.
Looks like we're.
But I'll never forget.
We're going through it here, folks. We'll be all right. We'll be all right.
Yeah, we're having some technical difficulties, guys. Sorry.
We love the internet sometimes, everyone. Give them a second here. I'm sure we'll be able to get back on live.
Meanwhile, why don't you talk a little bit about that season? Why don't you talk about that season a little bit more? Discuss what some of your favorite moments from that near championship season.
Man, it was really an incredible journey. I think what a lot of my teammates can agree with is just how special that playoff run was, because it was just we all just meshed together so well. And the two biggest games for sure it was just awesome was the first one would definitely have to be going back down to Texas and beating Merritt and Baylor, holding the ball for 43 minutes and and really living up to the mantra of pound the rock, and doing that kind of stuff, and then being able to fly back home and then have a playoff home game at Perkins Stadium. And if you guys have watched that game or heard anything of it, I mean, that was a great football game. I mean, and the fans at Perkins Stadium are unbelievable. The fans definitely need to have a shout out because it's a cold game. It's windy at night in Whitewater, Wisconsin, and nobody left. Everyone was in tune with the game the entire time, and that was just special. Those two games for sure are something that, I mean, it gives me the chills. I start sweating a little bit just because of, you're going through all the emotions, and those two games were awesome. And even the practices leading up to going against Meyerhart and Baylor, there was a different energy, and it's so weird because nobody talked about it. Everyone was just on the same page, and when you have that kind of feeling, it's unbelievable.
Football at its purest. Football at its purest. That's what it gets. That hair on the back of your neck standing up whenever you can have those feelings. That's what makes you great there. Okay, what is, in your opinion, the two most important traits an offensive lineman can possess to be successful at the next level?
I think you got to start, especially with the first one. I think you got to start ground up. You got to have great feet. You got to have great feet, because if you can't get to your spot or get to a spot, you're not going to win very often. So you got to have great feet, and I think discipline. You got to have great discipline. I think that's just a trait across the board that you can always say discipline of getting your job done, or making sure that you're consistent in what you're doing, especially with your hands and your feet. Fourth quarter, you're going to be a little bit tired, but you got to have the discipline to keep making sure you're doing your job correctly.
Yeah, there's a term I always write down when I watch an offensive lineman when I'm scouting them here, and it was one of the traits I wrote about you when you were pole trapping, and it makes me think of the song Tiny Tim, Tiptoeing Through the Tulips. If you're light on your feet like that, and I can see you chop and get around and fill at the second level, that was one of my first things I wrote down. So you're definitely good at tiptoeing through the tulips there. Do you have a preference per se, a zone blocking or man concepts? Do you have a preference that if you could pick your team, which one per se you could go to?
I think I really do enjoy, at the end of the day, the zone scheme, because and I think it's because, like, when an offensive line is working together, all five of them, it's poetry in motion, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially in pass protection, I love watching that the most. But when you got I think backside of like zone plays are really fun, because a lot of those jobs are very hard, and I kind of enjoy the challenge of those, getting that backside linebacker, because sometimes most of the time that's the person that'll be making the play. So if you're able to secure the first level and climb up to the second level and secure that linebacker, you're pretty well set up in that regard to have a great play.
Absolutely, yeah. You can ask Alan Faneca all about that he's riding that case the whole way to the Hall of Fame, getting to the second level for my Steelers. So if you could select a quarterback of anyone's, whether it's present or past, that you could be blocking for in front of them, who would it be?
I think it's got to be my guy, Tom Brady. Especially, I mean, he almost might be the answer to the pick the brain kind of a question. Sit down and just talk, football. I think there's a lot more. There's always so much to learn, especially with how much the quarterbacks have to be good at analyzing a defense. So, especially with my transition of trying to learn center, that center quarterback relationship is very important. I mean, even with Peyton Manning in his Colts days, I mean, how in tune that they had to be to execute what they were doing. So I think I kind of got lost in the question, but that's
fine. Hey, we even got your pick the brain question on that one, so that's good. Oh man. Yeah. Hey, and I'll tell you this much: one of the guys that kind of player comps for me, I love doing. So when I was watching some of your film, the one player I kept coming to, not saying, at the end result what you could be, but I see a lot of shades of Logan Mankins in your game. Back in the New England days, he was nasty. You got some nasty finishing skills, yourself, my friend. Kind of have a similar build, that offensive guard. Mankins could play center if he needed to. He was a very undervalued player for a decade plus back there in the 2000s. So I'm going to jump a couple questions here because we already kept you for a half hour. We enjoyed having you here. Yeah. We're having fun. But with guys like Ben Barch, we talked about last year with the Senior Bowl, coming from St. John's. He was a 4th-round pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. And if you go back a few years before in 2015, he got selected in the 2nd round, Mr. Ali Marpet to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Marpet's one of the best guards in the game here. They're kind of breaking that mold of small school offensive linemen that can come in and transition to this next level. If you had your opportunity to state your case to NFL GM right now, why they should select you over maybe a lineman from the bigger schools or a bigger program, that they might knock you just because you go from a smaller school, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that you're going to be getting a player that is not going to let anybody outwork, myself. I've worked so hard, and I think that's just one of the biggest things I think that a lot of people can say about me, along with just having a great positive mental attitude every single day of trying to get better and taking challenges, setting goals, and just having a very calculated approach on where I want to go and how I'm gonna get there. And having people like Ben Barch and Ali Marpet kind of pave the way for the small school guys, it really validates that someone like myself can do it, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to do it. And I've been doing it since March, quarantine, where I've been started my own YouTube channel and was recording my snaps into a garbage can, and working out in the basement of I call it the grit dungeon, or whatever else you want to call it. That's not, I kind of stole that name from someone, but I loved it, and I mean, I'm so excited for all this whole entire process. And I mean, I've been able to get this far with the intention of being a strength and conditioning coach. So clearly I've been all in with football and also all in with school. And I think a lot of these big time, bigger school players, they're going into the mindset of I'm going into the NFL, when my entire foundation is built off of I love the game of football, and I'm always gonna be all in on this sport. And so that's just, and you could tell because I've been all in, and I'm here to this point that I never thought I would have been.
Awesome answer there, Quinn. I'm hoping that we're not cutting out here again, because that was the main meat and potatoes. That was a great statement going forward here. Give it a second here. I see we're kind of skipping around a little bit. Hopefully we're not getting too many issues.
So, yeah, I think that's
awesome.
Do you have any more questions, Zach? If not, I just wanted to ask a few Christmas questions here quick for him.
I got 2 more football questions for him real quick, then let us get to the Christmas stuff. So you talked about the grit dungeon, and Roy brought up the nastiness you have to your game. And I'm really curious, because I noticed it too when I watch your film, is you're very nasty with how you finish. You put people on their backs consistently and constantly. So I was really curious where that nastiness kind of comes from and how you play with that grit.
It goes down to the foundation of I'm not willing to let someone, work harder than me. I'm willing to go to like a very, far extent, of, I don't know, pain or whatever to keep winning. So, and just to kind of get a little bit further into it, that's part of the reason why I watch film from so many different perspectives. One of those perspectives that I do watch is how does a defense or defensive lineman react if they're either up or down by a lot of points, or how they're reacting in the fourth quarter, because whatever it takes to get you to quit, I'm going to go there. I'm going to meet you there as quick as possible.
Nice.
And I think there's just a switch, especially with football, there's a switch. And especially in the trenches, it's just a different mindset that it takes to be successful down in there. And yeah, you have to be nasty and you have to be, mean to get the job done. You got to do whatever it takes.
That totally makes sense. And then finally, my last question is, if and when you get that phone call from an NFL GM saying you got picked, either whatever day it is, how would you celebrate?
First, it'd have to be a nice celebration back at home, with my dad and my brothers and sisters, because without their support, especially if my dad's support with helping me with school and helping me just stay motivated, and just his advice that he's given me throughout everything. And I'm a big food guy, so I definitely like to celebrate with a nice a nice steak on the grill, classic.
That's my kind of guy right there.
Sauteed mushrooms and onions, and and a nice glass of milk.
Oh, there you go. Man, that's an offensive lineman through and through. Man, going with the glass of milk. We're going to transition that glass of milk. It is Christmas time. You leave milk and cookies for Santa Claus here. Just a few fun questions to wrap it up here, Quinn, and we'll let you get on your way. What's your best Christmas present you ever got?
I think the best Christmas present for sure. I think I'm like 10 or 11 at the time, somewhere around there. And, I have no Christmas presents underneath the tree, and everyone's opening up their presents and stuff like that. And then I get the close your eyes and go to the garage, and my grandparents got me a 4-wheeler, and it was a cool little, it was a nice little 4-wheeler, and I was able to, it was one of those that could, shift it, neutral, reverse, 1, 2, and 3. And I had a lot of fun with that 4-wheeler. It was a nice little small one, and I think that would be one of the top presents for sure.
Nice. That's a great Christmas story. Favorite Christmas movie or Christmas song?
My favorite movie is always A Christmas Story.
That's my guy.
That's a classic.
You just can't. I don't know. I think that's the greatest movie. I don't care what anybody else has to say. I think I just can't. I don't know why it's that. I can't tell you why, but I can tell you that's just the one I enjoy watching.
Hey, well, Quinn, I'm going to give you this much. If we see you drafted on NFL weekend, I'm sending you a pair of the pink bunny pajamas. Just a celebration, big guy. That's just for you, because you're my guy right there. Christmas Story has always been my favorite. Turkey or ham at Christmas dinner? Which do you prefer?
I got to go with turkey. I've never been a ham guy. For some reason, I don't enjoy it. I'm not picky. I prefer turkey. For sure, turkey, gravy, and mashed potatoes. Can't go wrong with that combo.
Boy, we can go eat anytime. I'm the same way, no ham. Christmas cookies or hot chocolate? Which would you rather have?
Cookies. Nice. I love a nice cookie. Especially I like my own personal kind of homemade peanut butter cookies. Those are a nice peanut butter cookie.
Nice.
And always milk. Gotta go.
Always whole or 1%.
Yeah. I've been going whole milk a lot recently, and that tastes so much better.
Yeah, it's always better when it's 100%, not 1. Zach, do you have any more Christmas questions here you want to wrap up with?
No, I think I'm good. You asked a whole lot, so.
Hey, I wanted to get to know my man over here. He's one of my favorite small school prospects. I know we have a lot of guys here that's been commenting. They have a lot of good things to say about you. I hope my Steelers select you late, whether it's day 2 or day 3. I'd love to have you on my Steelers. We need some young guys up front to start grooming to replace, maybe DeCastro later on. But love to see you in our offensive front. Quinn, I can't thank you enough. I'm so appreciative of you jumping on here with us. I know me and Zach were looking forward to it all weekend once we got the info from you. If you have any clothing things you want to throw out there, go ahead. Your Twitter handle's there on your name. Make sure you reach out to this guy. Give him some love in the draft Twitter community.
What's that YouTube channel so people can check it out?
Well, unfortunately, I have a lot of that stuff kind of private. It was mostly for myself, but
that makes sense.
Yeah, I would, but I don't know. It's kind of something for me. But closing remark, fair. I'm just super, excited for this entire process. I want to say, thank you guys for having me on the show. I had a great time. These things always kind of fly by. And always, thank you, Warhawk Nation for all the support. Our fans and our players, are amazing. So just thank you guys for everything, and just know that I'll be working hard. And come the next couple of months, I think there's something special brewing, for myself and Warhawk football. So just stay tuned. I don't post very much on social media, but when I do, it'll probably be more important types of things. So
nice, big guy. Hey, well, we'll be keeping tabs with you. We'll keep in touch, and maybe we'll get some draft reaction after you're selected by one of these 32 teams.
Oh yeah. Thank you for coming on, man. We really appreciate it.
Merry Christmas, Quinn. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
We're going to take a quick commercial break here, and then we're going to jump into the other discussion with me and Zach.
For over 100 years, the story has been written, ever changing and growing with each new chapter. The soul remains, though the characters change. Bigger, faster, stronger, smarter.
Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide.
So too grows our fandom. Start miles ahead. The 2020 Prospect Encyclopedia. September. Available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Blitzalytics.com.
All right, Blitz Nation. Great interview with my man over there, Quinn. Oops. As I mess up with everything here. Gotta love me. I hate technology, but it somehow puts up with me. We are going to jump into our next section here, Zach. Do you want to go ahead and kick us off, buddy?
Oh, yeah. So it was great having Quinn on. He's a great guy to interview, great guy to talk to. Like we said, follow him at Quinn Meinerz on Twitter. You can keep checking that. Roy brought up, there's a video of him dunking on Twitter. Really good athlete, really good person, and really good football player who should end up on an NFL team after the draft. Excited to see where he ends up. But now we're going to talk a little bit more about football here in general. We're going to start with the conference championship games. Those just happened this past weekend. Lots of fun football, some blowouts. We're going to go into that first one, that first blowout. Clemson destroyed Notre Dame in the ACC championship. People came in thinking Notre Dame might hang with them again. Trevor Lawrence and a bunch of key defensive pieces that I don't want to forget about came back and shut down Notre Dame. So, Roy, what were some of your takeaways from that game real quick?
First of all, Amari Rodgers is very undervalued. This dude coming back from his torn ACL looked explosive. He's going to be probably that early day 3 guy at receiver that's going to outplay his draft slot. He's going to be a valuable 3rd or 4th receiver. Great special teams player. But I can't talk enough about Trevor Lawrence. I know we're all talking about who's the QB2 is. Trevor Lawrence is one of the best QB prospects to come out in a while. I'm not saying he's in the Andrew Luck category because we all know there's different flavors and sizes for quarterbacks. And but his running ability, we see a guy like Justin Herbert succeeding. Trevor Lawrence might have better accuracy than him coming out, but he has that running ability. I think he'd have that Herbert type effect in year 1. Going into the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
That dude just blows up play. And can we just stop saying Ian Book is an NFL caliber quarterback? I understand he's nice. He's a Notre Dame quarterback, okay? he might be really good in the XFL or Arena League or CFL. I'm sorry, Ian Book. I don't want to destroy your hopes, but you're going to be a practice squad player maybe at most.
Oh, yeah. So, Ian Book, I agree. He struggled. He showed his struggles. He's a good mobile guy that a team can get, maybe be a backup quarterback, but we really need to put to bed these talks of him being an NFL caliber starting quarterback. It's just not there arm talent wise, processing wise. I don't know what it is, but I've seen some of the decisions he's making. I'm like, why would you throw that ball? So it'll be really interesting. We got a little static here. I'm not sure what that's from, but get that figured out really quick. There,
good.
But I still hear it a little bit. I think it might be from the input capture. I kind of see it there. Sorry, guys, for the technical difficulties. We're still getting this all set up. But as we continue to talk about Clemson, Trevor Lawrence coming back, really big for that team. Really gave that offense a little bit of polish that it may not have had with DJ Uliagle. I can say his name wrong every time. But those defensive pieces coming back, they are missing a couple guys. I think they were missing three starters probably on that defense when they first faced off. So those guys coming back really helped them in their pass rush and in just stopping the run, basically, because Kyron Williams was very much not a factor throughout most of that game, which really hamstrung that Notre Dame offense, and that really was the difference in the game. Trevor Lawrence coming back was nice, but they were still in that game with DJ. So I think those defensive pieces coming back and being there, especially for this playoff run that they might make, is a lot bigger than Trevor Lawrence coming back, even though Trevor Lawrence, like we said, is a very, very good quarterback.
Absolutely. And you can see in Notre Dame as well, too, Zach. Notre Dame's offensive line is really good, but so is Clemson's defensive line. I think we can kind of, Hainsey has been a really good right tackle. We're probably going to have to see him inside. The one I was more impressed was Aaron Banks at left guard. Him and Eichenberg, they're very strong up there. And I think Aaron Banks is a guy that, especially through the draft process here, he needs to get some love. Even if it's a day 3 guy, he's going to be a 5 to 8 year player in the league. If he might not be a starter, he's a high-end backup. He's just solid.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a very good O-line they have down there, but that defensive line at Clemson and those linebackers, they've got some really good young pieces. There's the freshman, number 11, one of their interior defensive linemen has just been destroying people all year, and he did it even more against them on this past weekend. So we'll move on here real quick. Ohio State struggles against Northwestern. When are we going to talk about Justin Fields struggling against really good defenses? I understand he's a very good processor. He's got a lot of talent, but he struggled with decision-making against Indiana, who has a very fun, blitz-heavy defense. And then he really struggled against Northwestern. He just overall was not great. Trey Sermon really had a big day, but that Northwestern defense really gave Fields some problems. So when are we going to start talking about that?
I am on that bandwagon. It's not that I'm trying to kill Justin Fields' draft stock, but I actually went back this week and watched a few tapes throughout this year, and I'm really concerned about his processing skills. His ability to go through his progressions aren't there compared to the other big 3. He's the fourth out of the 4 quarterbacks here that we talk about at the top of this draft class, and I'm really concerned with his processing ability. It's not to say he can't, because maybe it's the system he is, but it's a lot of one read, get the ball out type throws. You don't see him stepping back there, and even if he does have to go back and go to his second or third, he's already getting jittery back there in the pocket. He's not looking to hang in the pocket and move within there. He doesn't have the greatest pocket awareness. He is a great athlete, I will give him that. He does have the running capability, but also remember, he's not 6'5". He's not Cam Newton. He's not Big Ben size. He's only 6'2.5", maybe 6'3". That concerns me a little bit, especially with the processing skills. I don't want to say he's Dwayne Haskins, because I think he's a better prospect than Dwayne Haskins.
Oh yeah.
I know everybody talks about Ohio State players. I think he has a different skill set than some of the ones that came out here prior. You got to kind of take him on his own merits, but I am concerned. I will say that straight out with his processing ability. That's the first red flag that went up for me. When I'm looking at all the 4 of these quarterbacks, that's one of the bigger concerns I have with all 4 was his ability. He's only half reading the field, and a lot of it is schemed up that way, and he's just not cycling through his progressions as you want to see. If I'm investing in a guy at the number 2 pick, because we know Lawrence is going to probably go number 1.
Oh, yeah.
and I'm going to be putting him on the table against Zach Wilson and Trey Lance here. That might be one of the deciding factors where I knock him down to, maybe that number 4.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting discussion once it comes to draft time. We're going to talk about it a little bit later with the Jets, but we're going to keep working through these. Oklahoma beats Iowa State. It was close at the end, but I feel like Oklahoma kind of had control of that game for the most part. How far has Brock Purdy fallen for you? Because I know I liked him before this season, but from what I've seen in the tape, I haven't watched all of it. I haven't watched really all 22. But from what I've seen, he's struggled a bit, especially in his processing and his ball management. He's thrown a lot of picks this year in big games. So I'm really curious what your take on Brock Purdy has been.
Yeah,
so far.
For me, Brock Purdy this year, from the tape I've studied of him, it seems like he's losing his spatial awareness. Within the confines of the pocket, he's getting he's speeding up his processing skills to the point to where it's negative plays that are happening. He's putting the ball in harm just because he's not feeling the pressure, and if he is, he's feeling the escape factor, and the accuracy is going down. For him, he's got to have structure within the pocket. To me, I know some people before the season started were talking about, this guy could be the next Baker Mayfield. I'm not going that far. To me, Brock Purdy is Andy Dalton. He's a guy that has just enough arm strength to get you there. He's got the leadership qualities. He could be a winning quarterback in the NFL, but he's not a guy I'm ever going to take on day one. I'm not going to do it. I think the spatial awareness and the questionable decisions that he'll make at times when he's under duress, it just leads me to a lot of, inconsistency, and I'm not like that. I think if in the right system, he's never going to be a guy that's going to take you that next level. I think he's always going to be a benefactor of the talent around him.
Yeah, that's how I was feeling when I watched him too. It's a really mixed bag with him this year. And while I liked his last year's tape, I just think this year it's been very rough. He's taken kind of a step back in my eyes. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him around draft time and how the NFL thinks about him. We'll go ahead and move to the next one. Oregon surprises USC. Keaton Slovis throws a couple of interceptions. I've liked Keaton Slovis coming into this year, but ball security has always been a bit of concern for me when I watched him his 2019 tape, and now this tape as well. And then University of Oregon has some good young guys. Kayvon Thibodeau is very good. I'm a fan of Mikhail Wright. He didn't play great against USC, but I'm still a fan of him. I think he has athletic upside. But University of Oregon has some good young guys. If they can figure out that quarterback spot, they might be something to watch out for next college football season.
Absolutely. The combination of those guys, plus Noah Sewell, who's just a freshman. Those two, Sewell and Thibodeau. Thibodeau, to me, is one of the most dominant edge rushers we've seen. I'm sorry that we're not going to get to watch that tape this year in the draft. That's one of these guys where it's like, man,
I'll
they
find
have
a
to
way.
be 3 years. He can't get his name in there. But Thibodeau is on that. He's ascending to that echelon of hype of Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney with the way he can dominate at such a young age. I can't wait to see that next step next year. Hopefully we have a regular offseason, get into there. Maybe they get a grad transfer at quarterback. Maybe they have one of these young guys. But they're right in the mix there to win the Pac-12 and maybe be in one of the college football playoffs games next year. Oregon's building out there in Cristobal.
Oh yeah, they got a very interesting group of talent coming in next year. USC though, still a good football team. They've struggled a little bit with opt-outs. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that wide receiver core is going to be pretty barren next year, but Drake London's still a really good receiver.
Yeah, and both their defense is going to be what's hit. I know a guy like you did your write-ups on the opt-outs to Efeli. Tufele. I always mess his name up. He's a guy in the front that they're going to be missing. Probably both of their safeties, Talanoa Hufanga and Isaiah Palomal, they're probably both going to be declaring. Nothing, official yet, but both of them guys are probably going to be gone. So they're going to have some holes to fill, whereas Oregon's having young guys that already have experience that are stepping in at a lot of key positions.
It's going to be really interesting. And then we could get into the debate of Washington missing out on this because of COVID stuff, but we'll leave that for somebody else to talk about COVID. We're going to move on to the next game. Bama beats Florida in a shootout. Is this the new SEC where they just scored 900 points a game?
Yeah, why
for each
not?
team?
Let's do it. Hey, we brought
the
air raid and Mike Leach. Let's make it happen, SEC.
Yeah. So funny because the air raid comes in, they have a good first game, but then they become the lowest scoring team I think, in the SEC over the entire year, while everybody else just starts scoring points in bunches. I love to see it. It's hilarious. But Jones or Trask, who would you pick just right now?
This is an easy one for me. Jones all the way. Kyle Trask scares me. He to me is nothing more than Mason Rudolph, product of the players around him. Really questionable NFL caliber arm strength and velocity. He really got to ratchet it up with his bottom half to get the ball where he needs to. Mac Jones, to me, I'm right in that second tier with him. I think he's a quality progressive receiver. He has good spatial awareness. He doesn't have the mobility that I like in my quarterbacks, but if I'm looking for a high caliber backup, maybe a solid starter, he'd be the guy in a Jared Goff-esque type offense where he's going to be that statue back there. You need to have a running game to complement him, but he can win you a lot of games if you structure it right in your offensive system.
Oh, yeah. I think I'd take Mac Jones as well, by the way, because I'm been a big detractor of Kyle Trask. I think he benefits a lot from having these insane pass catchers around him. Got a very good core, but Mac Jones also has a very, very good core around him. We talked Devonta Smith, Najee Harris, and all of that. But, I mean, I take Mac Jones. I think he's a little bit more aggressive with the ball in the right spaces. I think he has a little bit more arm strength. It's not much. They both are pretty comparable when it comes to arm strength in my eyes. They're not great arm strength talents. But I do like Mac Jones just a little bit more. I think he's running more of an NFL offense down there anyways in Bama. So then we get to the next question. This game probably had the top 4 or 5 Heisman candidates in it, and Najee Harris, Devonta Smith, Mac Jones, and Kyle Trask. And you could maybe even sneak Kyle Pitts into there because he's been insane this year. But I think the lack of games will hurt him definitely. Who gets the Heismans from this game? If you had to put your bet on anybody, who gets the Heisman?
So who would I take or who do I think? Because if it was me, both those quarterbacks' names would get wiped off the board. Me too. It's down to Najee or Devonta. Let's
get both.
And I'm probably going to give it to Devonta just because he is so dominant. You know, he doesn't have the egregious, build, but man, that guy can win in just a variety of ways. But I love me some Najee Harris. Every time I watch him, it's like I don't even know who to compare him to. Maybe Steven Jackson or Le'Veon Bell, because that dude, the way he's able to catch the ball at his size, but then also truck people, it's just ridiculous. So, and he's put up video game type numbers this year. I think it's basically, in my opinion, it should be down to them two and only them two.
Yeah, so I do think it's probably going to go to Mac Jones just because he's the quarterback of a very successful team. He's put up good numbers, but I think it should go to Devonta Smith. And Najee Harris would be my number 2, and then probably Trevor Lawrence would be my 3rd just because he's a better quarterback. But that's my little bias there. But it's probably, I want it to be Devonta Smith. He's having a dominant season in a shorter number of games for a wide receiver. He's put up, I think, 6 or 7 160-plus yard games this year. He quietly had like a 10-catch, 184-yard game and 2 touchdowns against Florida. Like, I don't know how you quietly have one of those games.
Every time you watch him, he's like putting up video. It's like, when did he do that? And then you realize, you look back, you're like, oh, he did break off like 3 or 4 big run after the catches.
And he's like, and he's one of my favorite guys to watch because when I watch, and I'll talk about Najee Harris here in a second, but when I watch Devonta Smith, I tend to compare him to those other wideouts that they had at Alabama, and he's as good of a route runner as Jerry Jeudy, I think, but he does it in a completely different way. Where Jerry Jeudy was a lot extra with the head fakes, the very hard jabs, and that made him fantastic in his own way. I think Devonta Smith is just so efficient as a route runner, constantly making the right move at the right time to get a guy leaning one way or the other, taking advantage of leverage, and then he can go up and get the ball better than Jerry Jeudy can. I think this guy is 100% worth a top 20 pick. I think from on the screen, but concern, and I really enjoy his tape, and I think he's going to be a good receiver in the NFL. And then Najee Harris, whenever I watch him, it's very interesting because I always think he always gets the most amount of yards he can from a run, which I think is probably his best trait. He's not going to break off huge runs, even though he can at the college level. In the NFL, he won't be able to, just because there's that lack of top-end speed that kind of comes with him. It's the nature of his game. But he always latency.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I'm hating technology here again, folks. But I get what you're saying.
We're making
here.
it work.
I get what you're saying here, Zach. With he doesn't have the long speed for the next level to break off as many big runs as he did here. But to me, that's the one thing in a running back I maybe value a little less compared to the vision and the patience. And, like you said, one of the best qualities, he gets more or exactly what is blocked for him. And that quality in the NFL is going to make you big money for the NFL in the next year or two.
There was the one touchdown run he had. It was earlier in the game where there was a couple guys pulling, making kind of a wall for him, and the hole wasn't there yet, but he knew it was going to happen. Cut right back into it just as it was forming, cut up and scored an easy 5-yard touchdown. And while that's not going to really be on highlight tape, when you watch that film, at least for me, and I'm not the biggest expert in the world, there's a lot of people smarter than me. But when I watch tape like that, I'm like, this guy knows what's going on with his blocks. He understands how those people are going to affect the defense, and he takes advantage of that with his cuts. It's really interesting to see one of my favorite running backs. I wouldn't be surprised. It's going to be a battle between him and ETN for RB1. And I would love to put Najee Harris in a possible RB1. He's a really fun watch for me. And then a little bit of that static coming in there. I'm not sure why. That's weird, but figure that out as we go. Really not sure what that is, but we'll talk about Cincinnati and Tulsa here really quick. Cincinnati beat Tulsa. This is the last championship game we're going to talk about. Really close one, really fun game. Complete downpour. Ritter played well. That Cincinnati defense is really good. They got a lot of tools there. And since we're talking about Cincinnati, I'm going to move into my college football playoff rankings discussion. I'd love to hear your take on who number 4 should have been, what should have gone into consideration there, and what you think about it.
I'm actually fine with all 4. It's in there. I know Texas A&M made a case to get in there, but I think we did get, Ohio State, maybe we can beat up a little bit because they only win in, 6 or 7 games. It is what it is. We're playing with craziness this year. I think it's really going to be coming down to 2 teams when you get down to it anyway. It's the last 2 that's been in there for the last, 3 or 4 years, it seemed like, ever since Hunter Renfrow was maybe a freshman in high school. It seems like it's always been Clemson and Alabama. They consistently win the recruiting classes, and they consistently win every year. Dabo and Saban, I don't know, whatever it is, starting to get like a Star Wars trilogy or episode, whatever. But nothing against, Ohio State and Notre Dame. I just don't think they're in the same class as those 2 teams. And I just think it's going to be an interesting college football. I'm glad we're getting to this point because that means for us it's draft season. But it also is a big kudos to everybody that had a part in making this happen with all the issues that we've been seeing going on. But Texas A&M did have a case there to get in. They had a great season. But to be a little selfish, I don't want to see Kellen Mond on a championship weekend. I'm not a big Kellen Mond fan. I just don't want to see him slinging the ball around. I'd rather see the guys we have, even though we get Ian Book again. Oh, well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would rather have Kellen Mond over Ian Book personally, but that's just me.
I want that Notre Dame offensive line. I want to see guys get nasty. So that's for me. I'll take them over Kellen Mond throwing the football.
Yeah, we all know. I just think that the big thing here is the reason Texas A&M didn't get in is probably because they got smacked by Bama the first game of the season. I know it was the first game of the season. They're probably a little bit different of a team now, but they got smacked by them. And then I don't think you really can come back from that on your resume. And then we're going to see good. We're figuring it out. We love to see.
There we go.
We love to see Skype working well. But we're gonna probably see Bama get nasty with Notre Dame. I think they're gonna confuse Ian Book. I don't think they have the tools on the outside to really do anything. If Notre Dame can get that offensive line grooving and moving against that defensive line of Bama, I think they'll be able to do it. But you really need a good passing offense to deal with Bama and keep up with them. And Notre Dame doesn't have that. So I think it's going to be a runaway. I think it's probably going to be like 56-30 because the Bama defense is good. It's not great. It's not as great as it's been in the past. their front seven is a little bit light, and Josh Jobe, while I like his athletic skills, gets very handy on the outside. So overall, I think it's going to be like 56-30 or something like that. It'll be close for the first quarter, and then Bama will just start stacking points like they always do.
I just got to throw out Cincinnati and BYU. Both of them guys have a case. They should have been in this discussion at least.
In discussion, yeah.
I'm not saying they would have been in, but they should at least been in discussion. Cincinnati more BYU at this point.
Yeah, Cincinnati not being in the discussion. BYU I'm a little bit more okay with. They did lose to Coastal, right. I totally understand. And while Coastal is a good football team, both those are – the level of competition just isn't there. Cincinnati should have been in the discussion, at least at number 6. I understand we all love Oklahoma. We understand they're the Big Ten. They won their championship, da-da-da-da. But they lost to Texas and Kansas State. And if you put that on a resume, you should not be number 6.
Nope.
I understand if you keep them top 10, they're a different football team than from the beginning. But if we're talking resumes, then yes, I think Cincy should have been above Oklahoma. It's a tough situation. The system is very much, hey, this team looks good, and it's not a solid system. I think we need to expand the system to 8. Do I think it'll happen anytime soon? No, because the College Football Playoff Committee is going to be very stubborn, like they always are, and they just want to make as much money as they can. That's how it works. That's why we got the 4 teams in discussion, plus the extra 2 there at 5 and 6, because that gets them the most money. Indiana also got, this is random, Indiana got hosed with their bowl game. They're going against, isn't it Ole Miss?
Yep, I believe it's
at
Ole
like
Miss.
6-6.
Yep.
And Indiana is ranked number 7.
They're one of the toughest teams in the land, too.
Yeah, they did lose their starting quarterback, so I kind of understand, like, maybe not having them at number 7, but since you have them at number 7, you probably should have given them a better bowl game.
That against BYU would have been nice instead of UCF, who they played
BYU,
last night.
Maybe, smacked. Yeah. Who got smacked by BYU? I was watching that game and it was boring because it was just too easy. Like people were like, "Oh, Zach Wilson's putting on a performance," and he put up some good throws.
Half their
like,
defensive back was in the injury tent, though. You know what I mean? And UCF had some guys back there, and Robinson, and some of those defensive backs that are NFL caliber players. It's just there was nobody left back there except freshmen and sophomores, and it's like, hey, he should be carving up guys like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he should be carving these guys up. This should be super easy for him, and it was, which is good to see. But like, he's going against cover 1, cover 2, cover 4. Like, that's what he's going up to. Maybe some cover 3 in there. All very simple coverages for him to read, and it doesn't really prove anything, that type of game. So I think we take that into account with BYU. But anyways, we'll move on here a little bit. We talked about our playoff discussion. The committee sucks. We know this. They don't give a crap about group of 5 teams. Nothing new here. But draft stuff now. The Jets actually won a football game. It's against the Rams. The Rams are an up-and-down football team. They have been, it feels like, all year, where they put up really good performances against good teams, and then they just randomly suck against bad teams. But Jets won. They fall to number 2 due to strength of schedule stuff. The Jaguars at number 1, looking for Trevor Lawrence most likely. Who do the Jets draft at number 2? I'm really curious to hear what you have to say, and then I'll go into it.
Oh, man, this was a hard one for me, because if I'm putting my GM cap on, oh, man, I love Sam Darnold when he came out. I would love to see him get Penei Sewell, and then you figure out who's playing right tackle between him and Becton, because that's life insurance right there, basically, those 2 big giants with their athleticism. But I think I would take Zach Wilson. I love Zach Wilson. I think you give Joe Douglas the full assortment here of having him pick his quarterback and the quarterback of who the new head coach will be. Because I'm almost 100% positive Adam Gase is gone after the year. You really have a full slate, and we see in the past, if you have guys come in, usually 8 out of 10 times, if it's not their quarterback, they're not comfortable committing to him. Get that rookie contract for the quarterback, build with maybe some veterans around him, maybe go get a couple pieces on the veteran free agent market for interior offensive line or a tackle. You go get some receivers for him. But for me, I think I'm taking Zach Wilson. I'd be really intrigued, though, to trade down maybe with a team like Chicago if they're in the market, or San Francisco if they can sweeten the pot enough for me. But it would have to include not only a 1 this year, it's going to have to be a 1 next year as well, if not more.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, if I don't get a sweet enough pot, I'm sitting back taking Zach Wilson, and then I'm pulling the Arizona Cardinals and trading Sam Darnold on draft weekend, for something, maybe a day 2 pick.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, that's the tough part about their situation, right? If I'm the GM, if I'm Joe Douglas, which I'm not, he's probably much smarter than me, but it's a really tough decision because you could either get, who I think personally is a once every 5 years kind of guy, and Penei Sewell, who is a cornerstone left tackle, a very good left tackle at the worst, a cornerstone left tackle at the best, or you draft a quarterback, or you trade back probably 4 or 5 spots. Maybe you trade with the Niners, get a bunch of their picks, get a bunch of their capital, and get a couple picks in that first round, and let them get Zach Wilson or whoever they want it to. But I think you got to pick your quarterback here. I would love Penei Sewell on that team. Him and Mekhi Becton as 2 physical freaks on each side would be absurd. Or you could move Sewell inside at guard because he's absurdly talented.
Becton and him at left guard. Wow.
Oh, left guard. That's just a mean front. Just think of the run blocking. Then Frank Gore could revitalize his career.
He might play to his son's a 10-year vet behind that offensive line.
Yeah. But honestly, you got to pick your quarterback here. Sam Darnold has not worked out. Whether that's Adam Gase or not, he still hasn't been great before Gase. Like, it's a really tough situation. But I think you pick your quarterback, who probably would be, because I'm just not that high on Fields, and I think Trey Lance is a little more developmental, even though I do love the potential of Lance. I think you pick Zach Wilson here. I haven't dove into Wilson's tape. I need to. But I think you take Wilson here or Lance. I don't think you take Fields. That's just my personal take. And yeah, it's just a really tough decision for that GM if the Jags don't lose one or two more, don't win 1 or 2 more games. It's such a weird situation.
You can see the Jaguars already, Zach. They're already coming out and saying, "Oh, Doug Maroon's like, we might rest James Robinson." It's like, now you're playing the game. You seen the Jets win a game, you're like, I'm gonna take my best rookie out of the lineup now, and well, we're not tanking for Lawrence. No.
We're letting them rest. I mean, we're not playing.
Let's just talk about this. Trevor Lawrence on that young offense is going to be intriguing if they get the number 1 pick. Chenault, Chark, Robinson, Lawrence right there.
Yeah. The big question is that offensive line, which just kind of sucks because, I mean, I want him to be safe. We need to cherish him. And also the coaching. Doug Marrone needs to be gone. I do like the OC there. I can't remember his name right now. He was it's Jay Gruden. He's done some really interesting pieces with that offense early in the season. Hasn't been as good recently, but they do need a new coaching staff. And I'm really concerned with how I've read this on Twitter, and it made a lot of sense to me. I'm really concerned with how that organization is run. It's not a very well run organization. I think it could use a little bit more. How do I say this? A little bit more management there, a better GM, better whole situation there. It'll be interesting.
That's a good thing though, is that it is a clean slate because it's a new GM as well. Like Louis Riddick interviewed for it. I love Louis Riddick. So if you get Riddick and a guy at head coach that'll be on the same path, maybe you could lure a Joe Brady down there with Trevor Lawrence and those weapons, and a young head coach with a GM candidate that's been through the ringer with a couple different teams.
Oh, yeah. And talking about new GMs, the Panthers, I totally forgot to include this. The Panthers fired Marty Herney, finally. Second go-around with the team for some reason. They thought it would work. Didn't. What a surprise. But it'll be fun to see who Tepper drafts. I'm slowly losing faith in that ownership thing just after how these past couple off seasons have been handled. That's a personal thing, though, because I'm a Panthers fan, as you can see from behind me.
Hey, your stocking's a Panther. We can't argue with that.
I know, man. But I'm really curious to see where this goes, who we pick. I hope we get somebody from, like, say, the Chiefs. I love how they run their organization, or the Patriots. I know they have a down year. An overrun organization from a management, and they always gotta love it.
Sorry, Zach.
Once again,
it's getting ugly with internet service, buddy. Around Christmas.
We'll finish this out real quick. We might end up.
Why don't we save our edge class for next time?
Yeah, we'll save the edge class for next week.
Yeah.
Let's do one last discussion. All right, we'll keep this a little quick. Kyle Pitts or a wide receiver 1. That could be any wide receiver 1 you think, whether it's Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Rashad Bateman, Rondale Moore, any of those guys, or Kyle Pitts.
Easy. Kyle Pitts every day of the week. I'm sorry. I told you guys last episode we're getting you into different things with scouting terms. He's my unicorn this year. I'm drafting my unicorn. I don't care if it's a top 10 pick. I'm taking that guy. 6'6", don't move like that.
Oh, yeah.
We see Chase Claypool had 8 touchdowns and whatnot as of now. Pitts playing tight end and a legitimate tight end. Not saying he's the greatest blocker, but he's a better blocker than Noah Fant was coming out. And he's a way better athlete and way better pass catcher. So that guy's dynamic. Day one starter, will probably be one of the 5 best production-wise tight ends immediately stepping on the field.
Oh, yeah. Transitioning for a tight end is always very interesting. It's kind of one of the tougher transitions because you get asked to do a lot more in the NFL than you do in college because usually you're like a one-role guy in college. Coaches would be really dumb to not put Kyle Pitts in that one role as a pass catcher guy. See a lot of people comping him to a Darren Waller or a Travis Kelce, and I think he has that type of potential impact. And I think, especially with how deep this class is at wide receiver, it's a very deep class. I have so many guys that I like that are going to fall at around 4. You could definitely get quality receivers late while picking your premier tight end for the next 5 to 10 years. Right there, and he can play receiver too. Like you could put him out at X, and he can ISO up on a corner. He did it against Patrick Surtain, one of my favorite corners in this draft. So you definitely pick Kyle Pitts here. It just makes sense. I wasn't fully onto this train early this season, but as I've watched more and more and seen more of what he can do, I'm 100% on that. Hey, pick Kyle Pitts before your wide receiver 1 if you don't already have a tight end.
Yeah, you'll be happy every day of the week because. Like we talked last week about, what our favorite positions. Tight ends just get used in a lot more ways than your receivers do. So I'm taking this guy, and I'm coming back in the 4th round and grabbing one of your guys that are going to be great value.
Oh, yeah.
And if I still need a receiver, there's always next year.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's some guys there. I don't know if he'll be eligible. Marvin Mims from Oklahoma. Bama's probably going to have another guy that's really good.
John Mechie out there.
There's the guy from OSU, Garrett Wilson, looks really good. So I don't think it'll be as good of a class because we'd already be talking about it. But it's still going to be a pretty good class because wide receiver has been a very abundant position recently. So, I mean, you can still grab your receiver later. If you can get a guy like Kyle Pitts, a one-in-a-kind, unicorn kind of guy that you do not see every year, you pick him up easy, no questions asked. So, with that said, we're going to skip our little edge discussion here because technical difficulties, and we've already been talking for a while. We tend to do that. Sorry, guys. We drone on and on. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll do our parting one hot take to end this show. Roy, what is your hot take?
My hot take. If you need an edge rusher, and he's probably going to go in that day 2 range, go watch your tape of Wyatt Huber from Kansas State, who just declared. He is a mad, mad man. And I'm getting some same vibes that I had with Mad Max Crosby when I scouted him a couple years ago here for Eastern Michigan. No buzz going on whatsoever. Wyatt Huber, when I watch him, he's not Mad Max, but I get a lot of shades of TJ Watt and how ferocious he is off the edge. He's a guy, he's dynamic, doesn't have the greatest athleticism, but I'm always a sucker for hot motor guys and who understand how to use their hands to get free. That's a guy you want to go watch. Wyatt Huber, Kansas State. He's going to be probably right outside my top 5 edge rushers because I haven't dived into all of them yet. But he's going to be probably in that next tier that's in that top of the 2nd round, maybe sneak into the 1st round. He's interesting so far. He just got a Senior Bowl invite as well, Zach. So there's some people taking notice of him.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be really good. I haven't watched him yet, but from everything you've said, he sounds like a guy I'd really enjoy as well. My parting hot take here. Gregory Rousseau gets drafted in the 2nd round, not the 1st. I don't think he's a 1st-round talent. I think, first off, top-heavy, this class isn't very good. We'll get into that next week when we dive in. But he's way too raw, especially after not playing this year, to take a chance on with a 1st-round pick in my eyes. So I think he gets drafted in the 2nd round. It could be the top, middle, end. I think it's probably closer to the middle. But he doesn't get drafted in the 1st round this year.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. I watched this tape. I didn't see the athlete I thought I'd see. I didn't see the polish I was hoping to see. I didn't see the potential there with the hand fighting. He's long. He's got a decent amount of athleticism, and he's got a good motor. He had a lot of sacks that year. When I watched him, they were all real quality wins against tackles. Hopefully you guys heard me. But he's definitely a weird guy to watch, and he's going to be fun. We'll go ahead and close out the show here. Roy, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me at @PreacherBoyRoy. Go out and get your hot takes. If you don't like ours, throw them our way. Get our questions in. A big thank you again to Quinn Meinerz for jumping on. Love that guy. He was a great quality find there. Any other draft prospects that might be out there, we'd love to have you on. Reach out to either me or Zach on Twitter or anywhere else that you can find us. Anybody else from the draft world that watches this, hit us up. Maybe we can get you on as well, as long as the internet doesn't crash and burn as we see.
Geez.
But hey, Merry Christmas. Enjoy your family. Love on everybody that's around you. Enjoy your time with the people that you have, because you don't know how long you have them. So be a blessing and stay humble.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you can find me at all22_addict on Twitter. You can talk to me there. I post clips all the time. We talk about it all the time here. Thank you guys for coming on to OTC. Love having you here. We're going to be back next week. I believe it's the 30th on the Wednesday. We might have to change that. I'll talk to you a little bit afterwards. I got some stuff going on.
Yeah.
But we'll be back hopefully next week. If not next week, the week after that. We definitely love having you guys here. We love the people in the chat. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Draft Guy Jimmy, for coming on. Thank you, Jack, for the compliment at the end there. And once again, Blitz out. We'll be back here soon.
See ya.